Welcome to Daps Travels. I'm Mr. Daps.
I'm Johnny.
And we are excited to talk about travel with you, specifically this time, the Disney Cruise Line, which is probably be what we're going to talk about for the next, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, maybe even more.
All of eternity, honestly, at this point.
Yeah, until one of us goes to Walt Disney World or me to Tokyo Disney, I guarantee we're going to detour a little bit.
It'll still come full circle to Disney Cruise Line.
Yes.
Because who doesn't love Disney Cruise Line?
Absolutely. And we will have a Disney Cruise Line trip report. Is that what we're going to call it?
Actually, yeah, that's a good idea.
We're going to call it a trip report, and it will be our next episode, probably, of Daps Travels, because somebody's going on a Disney cruise, and it's not me.
I'm in the single-digit countdown now.
How many days is it?
9. So I'm barely there, but I am so excited. I cannot wait to go up to Canada and spend some time in Vancouver for a little bit, and I just know I'm going to cry like a little baby when they announce my family boarding the Disney Wonder on
Which is going to be
May
amazing.
19th.
And the last time I saw the Disney Wonder was actually in Skagway, Alaska, which you will be at, I'm assuming, at some point in the near future.
Very first port of call.
Beautiful, and one of my favorite places on the planet. So we will be talking about all of that on a future podcast. But before we get into any of that, please remember, if you haven't done it yet, please subscribe. If you haven't done it yet, rate us wherever you're listening to this podcast. Preferably give us like 5 stars or something. Like, tell us that you like what we're doing as we explore this world of Disney Cruise Line podcasting and travel.
If you can too, especially on Apple Podcasts, ratings do help a lot with engagement and getting us out there. So leaving a 5-star review and a little comment saying what you liked about the show or anything like that, it really, really helps out a lot.
And then also share, like get other people to listen and comment, because we'd like to engage with you and have a conversation with you instead of at you or just with each other. As much as we enjoy chatting with each other.
If there's one thing I love doing, it's yapping. So
Wait, what?
Yapping, like, you know?
I know.
Oh my gosh. Me trying to explain yapping right now.
No, I got you. Yeah, you're good. And if you want to join the conversation even more, you can email us questions, comments, or ideas at our new email address, dapstravelspod@gmail.com.
Go ahead and email any questions you have in regards to that all day long. I will try to answer everything that I can within my knowledge bracket.
Well, and if you have something about the Disney Wonder, now is a great time to ask, because you can actually go and ask the question on the ship or discover the answer on the ship.
That is very true.
That would be very cool. That's not the ship we're going to talk about tonight, though.
That isn't.
Tonight is all about the
one that started all the beautiful, wonderful Disney magic,
which is I think it's one of the most beautiful Disney Cruise Line ships. Like, I think there's something so classic about the original 2 ships.
There really is, especially because when you look at the scale of them, they are just so much smaller than the other 4 ships currently in the fleet. Because I've seen pictures of the Magic docked next to the Dream, and I'm looking there, I'm just like, it looks like the Dream, but just tiny.
It almost looks like a toy.
It does. It literally just looks like a tiny little toy boat, and they are just absolutely adorable. I'm very excited that I get to go on her sister ship, the Wonder, in about a week and a half, because I'll be able to experience the intimate setting that it offers. But
well, I'm also curious to hear what your feelings are about the differences between your last cruise and this cruise. And because you're going to have obviously a different size of ship, you're going to have different crew, obviously, different location. Like, there's going to be so many fun things to compare and contrast. Before we move away, though, from pictures, one of my favorite Disney pictures is when you get to see either the Disney Magic or Disney Wonder go under the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. Like, I think it is one of the most...
that had to have been the Disney Wonder, because the Disney Wonder was the one that was positioned over here
that
on
goes
the coast when they did the Pacific Coast cruises. And DCL, if you're listening, please, I'm begging you, give me those itineraries back, because I would love nothing more to just travel up the coast of California and go up to Canada, whether I stop in Victoria
other cruise
or Vancouver.
lines do it.
I know, so I'm begging you. I said this last episode, but
it would be beautiful.
Please, pretty please, with a cherry on top, give me a permanent ship out here on the West Coast.
So let's talk about the Disney Magic. You ready?
Yeah, let's get into it. Because
Okay.
I will just keep blabbing on about wanting a ship out here.
All right. So Disney Magic. What is it like? Like, what are the basics of it? The specs. This is what you need to know about the Disney Magic.
So basic specs of the ship. It is, of course, a Magic class ship because it is the very first in the fleet. It is 300 meters long, and I think that translates to about 900.
It's like a little bit under 1,000.
A little
Yeah.
bit under 1,000 feet long, so it's a relatively small ship in comparison to the other ones. It was delivered to the Walt Disney Company on June 30th of 1998 with its maiden voyage a month later on July 30th, 1998. And it was christened on September 16th of 1998.
Which isn't that interesting? Because now usually you think of it like the treasure. They christen, then the maiden voyage. Then
Well, I thought, too, about maritime tradition. I thought it was traditionally the ship was christened before.
pretty early on.
But I also know specifically with the Magic, they had continuous delays with the production of it because the shipyard was working on other ships. Because
and
it was,
Disney wasn't the biggest client yet.
exactly.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Disney was just kind of, it'd be funny to say, testing the waters, literally.
I mean, not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about who was the godmother. Because I love this.
The godmother was Patricia Disney. A little bit of a tongue twister there.
Which I don't know if we'll ever get another Disney family member as a god person for. Because I actually because wasn't it Make-A-Wish they did recently as god people for one of the ships? I'm spacing which one. I remember covering it. It might have been...
The Wish.
It was the Wish. I was like, I feel like it was the Wish.
Make-A-Wish for the Wish.
There you go. That makes too much sense. But it is interesting how that has evolved through the years and has become bigger, and in almost more ways, they've become more heart-centered. Like it's they're using that for something good beyond it being just the traditional, oh, we have somebody important that's doing the christening and the...
I think what they're doing is they're really just trying to change the dynamic of what it is they're trying to go after, especially now with Disney Cruise Line really evolving their fleet and trying to have more of a presence in the cruise industry. They really just want to get themselves out there more, and I think...
Who would you like to see, or what organization would you like to see as a, let's say, like Disney Destiny?
I really can't think of anything for the Disney Destiny specifically because that is such a drastic shift from what all of the other ships are like, because even the Destiny, even though it's a Wish class ship, it's drastically different than what the Wish and Treasure are in regards to the theme, the whole...
Couldn't you almost see them using the West End cast of Hercules or something, like, and having them not just like make it a big moment with the music and the whatever?
I was gonna say that, but I was even thinking too, like maybe somebody in relation to Marvel. So one thing that I was thinking specifically because the statue in the lobby is Black Panther. I'm blanking on the actor's name.
Chadwick Boseman.
So I know
who's no longer here, but yeah,
he's no longer here, and he did pass away. I would think maybe something in relation to maybe his family or something like that,
or a member of the cast that was close to him
or something.
Okay, I like that. Yeah,
something like that, because it's more so you're paying like an homage to his legacy and everything like that, especially with going on a ship that's so different, but different in such
or
a
Ryan
good
Coogler,
way.
who directed Black Panther. Like that would be, yeah, I could see that. Make it a really heart-centric moment.
Exactly.
I love that. How fast does this thing go?
So the cruising speed of the Disney Magic is 21.5 knots with a max speed of 24 knots.
Okay. So it moves along decently.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's pretty common for a cruise ship. Going back to Godmothers, you know who I think is the coolest in recent years, though? And this is not Disney, I'm sorry.
Who?
Hannah Waddingham.
I'm going to pretend like I know who that is.
Oh, have you not watched Ted Lasso?
No.
Oh, okay. Then we're just going to move on. Never mind. Comments. Let us know in the comments if you thought Hannah was a really good godmother, because she's also doing all the Love Boat commercials for Princess.
If there's one thing I am not knowledgeable about, it is actors and actresses, because I do not consume a lot of TV media or movie media.
That's fair.
I stick to my same show, which is Schitt's Creek.
There you go. And you focus a lot on Disney.
Exactly. But not the Disney movies or shows, the Disney parks.
Talk about the styling of the ship.
The styling of the ship is absolutely beautiful. I could yap about this forever. It is
Please
a
do.
traditional
Maybe not
Art
forever.
Deco decor. You walk into the atrium, the Disney Magic, and you are immediately transported back to the golden era of cruising in the 1920s, 1930s. You just get this beautiful, lavish burnished wood interior, this magnificent carpet that's supposed to mimic the underwater seas and everything like that. You have this beautiful little statue of Helmsman Mickey in the atrium,
Which might be my favorite. Like, I love a lot of the other ones they've done through the years, but there is something very nostalgic, I get. Like, it almost brings up the childhood wonder of Disney, like, and combines it with, like, I grew up in a family of boaters, and so there's that connection of, like, oh, Disney magic as a kid that you're just like amazing, and then also growing up on boats. So there's a mystique and there's a magic to the ocean and to all of that, like the Mariner, because it's kind of a nod, I think, to the Mariner statue that a lot of people have seen through the years. And I think, if I were gonna guess, once we've been on every Disney Cruise Line ship, I think this will be my favorite statue. I might be wrong, but we'll see.
It's really funny that you say that, because
Unless they make a Kermit one.
never say never.
Exactly.
With those new ships that are
I can
coming
hope.
out.
I can
because
hope.
I mean, you do have Midship Detective Agency, which is circled around the Muppets on the Dream and the Fantasy.
There you go. So there's a chance in the future.
It's funny that you say that, though, because even just looking at the statue of Helmsman Mickey on the Atrium of the Magic, I already know that's not going to be my favorite.
Which one do you think will be?
I feel like it's going to still be the Fantasy, because there's something about seeing Mademoiselle Minnie there dressed in this cute little flapper outfit. She matches the vibe of what the Fantasy's atrium is, with this beautiful Art Nouveau peacock-inspired chandelier with this beautiful motif continuing onto the carpet. It is just absolutely magnificent, and it really conveys that level of luxury that they were trying to go for, because it was trying to be that classic, beautiful,
Which is very Minnie Mouse.
warm.
And a little bit timeless.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense. Bow character, which has become, I feel like, a pretty big thing in recent years when they released the filigree. Is that what it's called on the front of the ship?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. What do we got on this one?
It is Sorcerer Mickey, which I think is honestly the perfect way to do that. You know, this is the first ship.
And it's named Magic.
It is named the Magic.
Like,
you really
what
have
else?
to continue with that motif, which I do
You're
find
not
funny,
going to put Madame Mim there.
that would be more fit for the Destiny.
Would they do Madame? That's actually an interesting question, though. Like, do you think they'll?
Wouldn't.
I was like, I can't imagine them doing a villain like that. Maybe a villain, but not.
Because I think the bow characters are specifically, it's either Minnie, or I think it's Minnie or Mickey.
Well, and wouldn't
or a
she?
different variant of
Okay, I'm good with that, because I'm like, there's also the whole like
The stern-
superstition thing.
The stern is totally different, because the stern has a different.
And what's on the stern of the Magic?
The stern is Goofy.
Which is amazing. I love it. How big or how many people can fit on this thing?
So the Disney Magic has a capacity of 2,700 guests and a grand total of 875 staterooms.
Which, if I recall from our previous conversation, it can fit more guests by just a little bit than some of the crews for some of the other ships, mainly the Disney Adventure. Because weren't we reading that it was like 2,000 something for the crew of the Adventure?
I think so.
Which...
Because I know the Adventure is
Mind
close
blown.
to triple
Which makes
the
sense.
size.
Yeah. All right, talk about rooms.
So for rooms...
Cabins, I should say.
True. For cabins, we have a total of 262 inside staterooms, 229 ocean view staterooms with portholes, and 834 staterooms with veranda access.
Or 384.
Did I say that?
You're close.
I can't remember.
It's okay. But beautiful. Where does it currently go?
So it currently sails to the Bahamas, the Caribbean, Alaska beginning next year, and my favorite, the Panama Canal.
Which, thinking of the size differential, it would be interesting to see it in the Panama Canal versus some of the other ships you see go through Panama Canal, because I feel like it'd have a lot of room. Of the current itineraries, which one would you want?
I would want to do the Panama Canal cruise.
I would too.
It's really unfortunate though because the Panama Canal cruises are so popular.
And those are like 14 days, right?
They're 14 days,
Yeah.
and they're almost exclusively repositionings.
Which
So
I'm okay with that.
The reason why the Magic is going through the Panama Canal in April of next year is because once it docks in San Diego, it's heading up to Vancouver.
That actually would be another one I think would be fun, is doing San Diego up to Vancouver, because that will probably stop in San Francisco.
It doesn't.
Really?
As of now, it doesn't. So the Pacific Coast cruises are exclusively repositioning ones, and it's funny that you mentioned that because the Disney Wonder is actually on its repositioning cruise from San Diego to Vancouver for the beginning of the Alaskan
saw that
season.
So did they used to stop in San Francisco on the repositioning? Is that how it works?
Some of the itineraries did stop in San Francisco, so they had different ports of call in Seattle, San Francisco.
And now they're just like
even in
scoot
Astoria.
up the coast as quick as they can. Mm-hmm. Interesting. All right, let's talk about food. Where can you eat?
So many different places. There are so many different places you can eat. You will never, ever, ever be hungry on a Disney Cruise Line ship. You have your traditional 3 rotational dining restaurants, your typical buffet that you would have either Marceline Market on the Wish class ships or Cabanas on the Magic and Dream class ships. You also have the pool dining around the pool deck with the little various kind of like typical quick service spots that you would expect to be on like a Disney park or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And then you also have your 24-hour room service. And I cannot emphasize how amazing that is because there's nothing better than going to your stateroom after a nice, tiring, long day of relaxing and either getting some chicken tenders, a grilled cheese, or one of my personal favorites, the fresh chocolate chip cookies that are nice and warm and feel like a warm hug. They're divine.
But like, why not just get all 3?
You can. I have.
I was like, I feel like you were saying this. I'm like, yeah, chicken tenders sound good. Oh yeah, grilled cheese sounds good. Oh yeah, cookies sound good. I want all 3.
It's perfect because they aren't super, super large portions, so you can go ahead and get a couple of those.
And
it's just perfect.
And I'd want to be able to sit out on the balcony because I do have a thing where it's like, if you're gonna cruise, you gotta be able to go outside. Like, I think it's worth the extra money to have a balcony that you can sit at, be comfortable, and not a tiny one. Like, you have a decent sized one. You know, I might not go as large as the one you had, but there's something so relaxing and beautiful about sitting outside, smelling the ocean air, enjoying a cup of coffee or chicken tenders, whatever it is you choose, and just watching the world literally go by.
I do have to say, I am an advocate of when you are on a cruise to go ahead and pay that extra money to have a veranda stateroom, regardless of what category it is, because I know when you get into veranda staterooms, they have different categories of what it'll look like and everything like that. But I am a huge advocate of the premium most of the time is going to be very insignificant in regards to the overall cost.
Your return is going to be so worth it with the experience you have.
So worth it.
Other than, I will say this, make sure you're not behind a lifeboat. Because some of them, you know how they're obstructed views, I think they're called. I don't know if this is Disney Cruise. I know on other cruises.
I'm trying to think on Disney Cruise Line. I don't think a lot of them are because I know traditionally on Disney Cruise Line, a lot of the lifeboats are on decks like 3, 4, and 5.
That's so they're below.
And those aren't passenger decks.
Perfect. Because that would be the only general cruising thing I would keep an eye out for is don't get in an obstructed view because you go to see things, I feel like.
They do have some obstructed views on Disney Cruise Line in regards to the veranda cabins because I know you can have veranda cabins range from category 4 to category 9. So there's a lot of leeway in between.
Okay.
But you can get one that either has like an obstructed view to where you still get an ocean view from it, but it's not a full ocean view, which still isn't bad.
Yeah.
You also have some of them that are a navigator's veranda. So it's a more so enclosed veranda that has the big porthole that you can see out, and that is open air.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so it's different like that. And then you have, when people think of a veranda stateroom, it's just a balcony.
That's what I want. Like, I love a good balcony.
They're so nice. There's truthfully also nothing better than just waking up and one of the first sights you see is just the ocean.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe like when you're in Alaska, you're going to see mountains and eagles, and like you're going to see so many great things. And for me personally, there's nothing better than going out in the balcony in the morning, working on the website, like getting a few articles up with a cup of coffee, because definitely the cup of coffee, and then maybe having breakfast delivered. Like, it's a beautiful way to start the day.
Having a nice little breakfast delivered. And then for me personally, because I am not a fan of really brewed coffee. I love a nice little specialty latte.
Yeah, you want that. You want the.
I will mosey on up to Cove Cafe and get my nice little beverage.
What is funny is I will usually wander to whatever coffee shop is, even to get my regular brewed cup of coffee, just for the sake of walking in the morning. Because if your experience on Disney Cruise Line has been like my other experiences, there's not a ton of people up in the morning. Like, it's pretty quiet. Like,
it is very quiet. I remember I woke up early when we were on the Fantasy, and I was just shocked to see how empty the ship was. It was like a ghost town.
And it's amazing. And then if you get towards the end of whenever breakfast is being offered, suddenly it gets really busy. But like, if you get up a couple hours earlier, like, you basically have the ship to yourself.
I think it's because everybody on board is in that vacation mentality of like, I'm going to sleep in.
Yep.
And while I usually am of that mindset when I am on vacation, I really want to try to enjoy the ship as much as I can. And for me personally, I love my alone time. And if I can stroll around the ship, whether it be on the open promenade outside or walk through the atrium.
But you even do this at hotels.
The time to, yeah.
Like, you enjoy that, getting the space to you.
There's nothing I love more than being at the Grand Californian and it is midnight or 1 a.m. It is some ungodly hour, which I shouldn't be up when I'm staying there. And walking through the Great Hall and just admiring the chandeliers, admiring the fireplace,
the ambiance,
ambiance, the detailing of the carpet, watching the carpet seamlessly blend into the flooring that they have in the Great Hall. It is just so beautiful.
It's lovely. And then if you hear the fire crackling, even better. Talk about the rotational dining currently.
So currently on the Disney Magic,
since it's not always been the same, we'll get to that though.
There are 3 rotational dining restaurants. You have Animator's Palette, which is a staple on the 4 classic ships for Disney Cruise Line. You have Lumiere's, which is going to be their French-inspired restaurant. And then you have Rapunzel's Royal Table. Lumiere's offers a great French-inspired menu.
I'm shocked.
Options, right? It's so different. But...
Are you a fan of escargot since they do serve it?
I tried it, and it wasn't my favorite, but
okay.
I did not hate it, and I was expecting to hate it.
I like it when it's done well. I've had good escargot, and I've had escargot, and there's a huge difference.
I've only had the escargot on the ship.
Okay.
And I thought it was okay. My family, when we were at Topolino's Terrace at the Riviera, they had escargot, and this was years ago, so I did not want to try it.
Fair.
But they really enjoyed it, and they said it was phenomenal.
Okay.
So I'll take their word for it. Again,
beautiful.
Not my thing. I tried it once. I can say I tried it, and that's about it.
Talk about Rapunzel's. What do they have?
Rapunzel's is actually really fancy because, as the name says, it's based off of the movie Tangled, you know, everything like that.
Yeah.
It's one of the restaurants that has that dinner and a show type environment.
It looks really fun.
It does look really
like, I've only seen videos, but it looks fun.
But they have an entire little show that goes along with your dinner, and your meal is paced around the show and everything like that. So it's really, really nice. But they have a bunch of different meals over there inspired by the movie Tangled. So they have the Snuggly Duckling Platter, the Crisp Isle of Corona Shrimp, the Flynn Rider Palette, which is honestly really funny. I'm just like, well... I feel like they've just tried to put all the names of the characters in there. They're just like, we're going to try to
I want to be on that team.
Much as possible.
I'm like, that sounds like such a fun job. It's like, oh yeah, we have this traditional dish. How can we make it Tangled?
And the funny thing is, it's really funny. It's like how they can make something Tangled or Disney-fied. They have an item called the Tangled Pasta.
Which I haven't had it, but I think it would be my favorite just because the name writes itself.
I'm assuming this is something like a spaghetti-esque dish.
That or like a fusilli that's kind of
exactly.
Like, yeah.
So I just thought that was really, really funny.
Do they have that on the Wonder?
No, on the Wonder, they actually have Tiana's Place.
Oh, that's right.
Which I'm excited about because Tiana is my favorite Disney princess. I absolutely adore Princess and the Frog. It is one of my favorite movies that has ever been made.
Well, it'll also be fun to talk about the food for that versus the newer food we've had at Disneyland with Tiana's Palace and stuff to see how the Creole flavors match up.
I was not pleased with Tiana's Palace at Disneyland, and from what I have heard...
This is much better?
That Tiana's Place on the Wonder is everybody's fan favorite restaurant.
Great.
That has sailed on that
That'll
ship.
Be fun. Then we have Animator's Palette, which has...
So Animator's Palette is... I don't want to say boring, but it's going to be probably your most generic out of
Well, it's also been around the longest, right?
It has.
Because I remember when they announced it years ago, and it is a fun, like, I like the concept.
It is a somewhat interactive meal.
I just kind of feel like maybe it's one of those things that's a foundational experience / meal that maybe is ready for a refresh. I could be wrong.
I feel like that is a good way to put it, because I've only been on Animator's Palette on the Fantasy, which is a different experience from what it is on the original 2 classic ships.
Right.
So I'm going to be interested to see what Animator's Palette is going to be.
I can't wait to hear about it
on this ship. But
to talk about what it came with originally.
So out of all 3 rotational dining restaurants that have been on the Magic, there has been one that has been, for lack of better words, put through the ringer as to it's worn a few different masks throughout its years.
Yes.
And I'm talking about Rapunzel's Royal Table, because as we know, Tangled didn't come out in 1998. Tangled came out significantly later. But when the Magic first opened, it debuted with Parrot Cay. I want to say Parrot Cay because it's Castaway Cay.
I think you're right.
So Parrot Cay, which from what I have read up and from what I've seen was a very tropical, more so island-inspired type of restaurant. I didn't really find anything in regards to what the menu or anything was like over there. But I do know it was a much more tropical background and everything like that. And then when the Disney Magic went into dry dock in 2013, that venue was reimagined into Carioca's, which is based off of the 3 Caballeros.
Which is interesting because that's just a couple years after the 3 Caballeros went into Epcot. That's very, like, when you think about it, in that I hadn't connected the dots till just now, and I'm like, oh, this was clearly something that was a focal point right then. Granted,
I'm thinking
a decade later we get
I'm thinking too,
Viva, but
around the time too where they were really trying to incorporate more Disney intellectual property into
I could see
ships.
that, because Parrot Cay was just tropical.
Yeah.
Like,
and if you notice specifically in comparing the 4 classic ships to the Wish and the Treasure, which are the 2 newest ones, the 4 classic ships are so revered because they actually do not have a lot of that Disney theming over in a lot of the venues,
because they were leaning
really
into the classic nautical feel, right? Like that's what I remember.
You walk into the atrium of the Magic and it's like this 1920s 1930s style ocean liner,
which I love,
versus you walk into the atrium on the Wish and you immediately tell, like, oh, this feels Disney.
Well, and it's interesting too because you go even further and you walk in like when the Destiny comes out later this year, and then it's even more like at some point you almost wonder if it's not going to feel like you're necessarily on a ship, you're just in a really cool space, because the Destiny to me almost looks like it could be a really fancy hotel, I don't know, in Vegas or something. And
I think this is not what they're trying to have that be, and they're really trying to have this be, because a lot of the times with cruise ships are about the destination and where you're going to. And what Disney Cruise Line does, and I think they still do a very, very good job of doing it, is even though the ship is sailing to all these different ports of call that can be exotic and brand new for a vast majority of the guests, they focus on making the ship
the destination. Which I think the best example of this is the Disney Adventure. Like, yes. It's not going anywhere. It's leaving Singapore. You're out there for 3 or 4 days. You come back, and the whole premise is you get to go to different parts of this ship that is it different neighborhoods? Is that what they're calling it? And I think that's going to be very fascinating. We have a friend that lives in Singapore, and I'm really hoping he goes on the ship so he can tell us all about it. And
I really want to go on the adventure, and
I do too.
Would love to do a back-to-back.
I'm almost more excited about the adventure than I am the Destiny. In fact, I think I am flat out. Other than the whole Singapore thing intimidates me a little bit, because that's, 16, 17 hours away?
It's a long flight.
It's a long flight for a 3-day, 4-day cruise. Well,
you wouldn't do a 3-day, 4-day cruise. You would make it a week long, and you would just book a back-to-back.
There you go. That's a good way to do it. And but even then, that's like 1 week.
I would be able to justify flying across the globe for that.
See, I can justify Tokyo for 1 week. That's an extra 4 or 5 hours. I'm like, oh no, I kind of want a little bit longer now. And then I don't know. Like, that's just my weird, quirky, whatever. What were some of the other dining places that it debuted with as we dial ourselves back in?
So going back into that, they also debuted with Topsider Buffet, and a lot of people
I don't even know
will
what that
not know
means.
what that is.
It
That's
sounds
cabanas.
like it's what?
It's cabanas.
Okay, I was like,
Everybody
it
who
sounds
sailed
like
on
just
Disney
top
Cruise
deck.
Line.
Like topside is when you go up on the deck of an old sailing ship.
I was looking into the history of that, and I'm just like, that's such a
Nautical term.
yeah, which again ties in with
Yes.
everything because they're very nautical. You look at the staterooms and the stateroom decor that they have on the ships, and they are very nautical themed.
So it was the cabanas, not the actual like buffet. It's usually at the stern of a ship where, you know, that's your like quick service buffet thing. Interesting. Okay. What else?
So Topsider Buffet debuted in 98, and then it was eventually redesigned and renamed to be Cabanas in 2013.
Is that what it still is?
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
I love Cabanas.
So they're just going straight forward. Like, this is what it is. Mm-hmm. Okay. Got it.
So going into some of the deck food that they have over there, the ship debuted with Pluto's
And is that
Doghouse.
towards the stern usually?
The buffet or the deck
The deck food?
Deck food is very much going to be midship because it's going to be by the pools.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So it's like funny because from what I've noticed, it's like it's kind of like built into where like the funnel would be. Like you see the funnel coming out.
Okay, that
and
helps.
That's where they have everything, like structurally speaking.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
So the Wish. Oh my gosh, I'm so dead set on like my cruise itineraries.
Magic.
The
Magic.
Magic, because that's the ship that we're talking about. The Magic.
We'll get to the Wish.
We will eventually get to the Wish. I'm just trying to jump the gun because I really want to talk about it because I'm going to go on it eventually.
It's fair. It's going to be great.
But the Disney Magic debuted with Pluto's Doghouse.
Which is cute.
I do think that's cute.
I
It
actually-
kind of reminds me of when we had Pluto's Doghouse in Toontown.
And when you think of the Mickey statue as you're entering the ship, like that actually, from a theming standpoint, kind of makes sense to me.
It does. And I think this is where they kind of really leaned in originally with the Disney
The little
themes on the
classic.
ship, with like
Yeah.
classic. So it's that Disney magic at sea.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So it debuted with Pluto's Doghouse, which was later reimagined into Pete's Boiler Bites in 2013 during
I like the original name better.
Dry Dock reimagining.
Okay.
And then further on down the line, that was then reimagined in 2018 to Duck and Diner, which is what currently exists on the Magic.
I still like Pluto's Doghouse the best. Like, that's a solid... It's cute.
It's cute. I feel like Duck and Diners are really cute, though.
It is also cute, but, like, Pluto needs more love. Donald gets a lot of love.
I feel like Pluto gets a lot of love. Pluto's my favorite out of all of them.
See, you should be on my side here.
But I feel like Pluto gets a lot of love, and I also just love Donald.
Okay, that's fair. All right, what else did we have?
So, as well on the ship, as we all know, all the ships have ice cream.
As they should.
As they should. 'Cause who doesn't love ice cream?
It's like a worldwide law. It might be the only global rule that exists that everybody actually adheres to, and that's every cruise ship has to have ice cream.
It's delicious. Who doesn't love a cute little soft serve?
Mm-hmm.
So, the location, and this is a very imaginative name, Scoops. Scoops debuted on the ship, and that was the ice cream parlor.
Which is funny because it was probably soft serve where they're like doing that. It's not actually. I'm sure you could buy.
Which is really funny because I think what they probably recognized is that it was taking up such a large location on the ship that could then be minimized to just having 2 soft serve machines.
Yeah, because that's what everybody
Readily
wants.
accessible.
Yeah,
It was in reimagined to Goofy's Galley in 2005.
that's a good name. I like that. Okay.
And then in the reimagining of the Disney Magic in 2013 in Dry Dock, it was rethemed to Daisy's Delights.
Also a decent name.
But do not fret, because I know I didn't mention ice cream in this reimagining. The ice cream still exists on the Disney Magic in the form of ice cream.
Oh, that's the name of it now?
The name of it is Ice Cream. And can you guess what character it is kind of themed after?
Who?
Monsters, Inc.
Oh, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I literally got
Mike.
stuck in a Frozen realm in my head. I'm like, who screams in Frozen? Because, like, that makes sense.
But yeah, it's themed after Mike from Monsters, Inc. It's really, really cool. It's just a quick little stand where you can go in and get your soft serve at.
So before we get into an entertainment, do you think it's up for another upgrade in the near future? Because it's been, 10, 12 years since it's had its major... Like, I'm seeing a lot of 2013 was a lot of its...
So it actually went into a dry dock, if I believe, back in 2021, and they reimagined what the concierge experience is like.
Oh, I do remember
And
reading
they
that.
reimagined and refreshed some other spaces on the ship, so they got rid of the promenade lounge and replaced it with Soul Cat.
Okay, so it's got a few years now.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
I personally do not foresee the Disney Magic or the Disney Wonder leaving the fleet anytime in the near future.
I think
Because Disney has done such an amazing job of maintaining these ships. You see these ships in port. I've seen the Wonder in the port of San Diego multiple times. It does not look like it is as old as it is. That ship is almost as old as I am.
And when I saw it in Skagway last year, it was the prettiest ship in Skagway. Like, the Princess ship we were on was beautiful. Like, it was taken very well care of. But the Wonder was pristine. Like, it was... Like, it just popped. And it was wonderful because you could just see it. Like, you're going to see this in a week. Is you're walking down the middle of their main street in Skagway, and you look up, and in front of you is the Wonder. And it's just gorgeous there. Like, it's a wonderful... They have the best place to moor when they come into town. It's so great. Let's talk about entertainment. That's one of my favorite parts of any cruise and Disney in general. What do we got there?
So we have multiple different entertainment venues on the Disney Magic. The first one we will go ahead and dive into is my favorite of them, the Walt Disney Theater.
And I love that they do this.
The Walt Disney Theater is a 977-seat full theater facility that performs Broadway style and Broadway caliber shows at sea. It is located on Deck 4 forward, and some of the shows that are included on it are going to be Tangled, the musical.
Shocker.
Twice Charmed, an original twist on the Cinderella story, and the Disney Cruise Line original show, Disney Dreams, an Enchanted classic.
Which I've heard is amazing. Like, that's the one everybody talks about, right?
I have heard that all of the Disney Cruise Line exclusive performances that they have are phenomenal, because I watched Believe on the Fantasy.
Yeah.
And I cried like a little weenie.
Which I feel like probably all of these you will.
I feel like I will cry. Eventually, when I go on the Magic, I will absolutely see all three because I love the entertainment on it. I already know Disney Dreams is just going to get me crying probably within the first 5 minutes of the show. Tangled, I love the Tangled story. I love the comedic aspect of it because I just think it's really funny that
And the
Rapunzel
Alan
defends herself
Menken music is
with
pretty good
a frying
too.
pan.
Yes.
That's just a mood.
Yes.
And then you can never go wrong with Cinderella.
Exactly. Then we have the Buena Vista Theater.
Yes, the Buena Vista Theater. So that is the 278-seat movie theater located on Deck 5 aft.
Oh, okay.
This is just like your typical movie theater that you would have
Interesting. Okay.
anywhere else on land, except on the Disney Cruise Line ships, they play the latest movies in the...
You can do opening day, right?
You can do opening day. And what's really cool about opening day for movies at sea is they are played in the Walt Disney Theater.
Oh, nice. So you could watch, in theory, Lilo and Stitch. Is that during your cruise?
It is.
Yeah, I'm like, you could watch Lilo and Stitch opening day while you're cruising.
I'm ready to clear out my day to figure out whatever showing I need to get to so I can watch the debut of a movie at sea.
That is pretty cool. That is very cool.
But there's so many cool different movies that play while on the ship. I forget what movies were playing when I was on the Fantasy.
So do they use the Buena Vista Theater for like comedy acts or anything too, or no?
So I've seen the Buena Vista Theater be used for bingo.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I've actually seen some of the comedy acts that they have performed in the Walt Disney Theater, as they have a full stage set up and everything.
Like the interactive ones where they pull the people up on stage, and I always like sit really low in my seat so they don't pick on me. Yeah, I gotcha. All right. Disney also has something really cool at sea that they do at night, and it lights up the skies. I think they're the only cruise line that does this, aren't they?
They are the only cruise line that does it. And we are talking about fireworks at sea, because it wouldn't be Disney without fireworks.
It's so true.
I think it's really cool because they always have the fireworks going on the pirate night that they have, because they always have a dedicated pirate night on all of the sailings that do include fireworks, because not all sailings have fireworks on them. Alaska is actually one of those itineraries where they do not have that.
As you were saying that, I was like, how could they do it in Alaska? That wouldn't...
Because of the laws and things like that surrounding that. So some
It'd be bad for the animals and stuff, yeah.
So some of the European itineraries and the Alaskan ones do not have fireworks at sea, but they do make up for it in that they have a cute little frozen deck party.
That's cute. Does it have snow?
It does.
I was being facetious, but I was right.
It does.
Okay.
They have the wonderful Snope.
You know what? Nothing wrong with that. We love it at Christmas here at Disneyland
Maybe there
Resort.
would be snow too, because depending on how cold it is when you're up there.
It's true, actually.
It could
All right.
happen.
What else they got?
So they have, in my opinion, one of the cooler slides that they have on the ship. It's called the Aqua Dunk. Not to be confused with the Aqua Duck, which is on the Dream Class
Which is
ships.
the ride, right?
That's the Aqua Mouse.
Oh, you're right. Yes.
Aqua Mouse is the ride one, but Aqua Duck is on the Dream Class ships. Aqua Dunk is exclusive to the Disney Magic. It does not exist on the Disney Wonder.
Interesting.
The Aqua Dunk is a drop-down slide. So it's a drop slide to where you go ahead and sit up there, and it's like a trapdoor that releases and you go down it.
It literally drops you.
Yep, it's a drop slide, and it is on the ship's forward funnel, and it has you go in a colorful translucent tunnel slightly over the edge of the ship, looping.
Oh, that better be cool. Okay.
So
where do you end up?
I am not sure.
All right. Well, we'll find out, and someday we'll know. Okay.
They have that, and then they also have the Aqua Lab, which is a large water play area for kids of all ages.
Okay.
And they have a bunch of different, like, smaller slides.
Is that kind of like their
over there?
General, like, pool and mini pool and hot tub and all of that stuff there, or no?
So, not quite. That's more so like the family area from
how
to describe it.
Okay.
Because the adult-only area on the Magic is actually massive. They have a couple different adult-only pools over there. They have a pretty large section of this ship reserved as the Quiet Cove area.
Is that towards the front?
I want to say it is towards the aft, but I'm not quite sure.
I was like, different cruises do it differently, so I was just curious.
I'll find out in a week because the Wonder has the same layout.
There we go. We'll talk about it with Wonder. What else they got?
So one of the things that Disney Cruise Line is known for is a lot of their onboard entertainment in regards to like the theme parties and things like that they have. On the Magic, they actually have the Sail a Wave party on Embarkation Day. And it's a very high energy thematic party with
It's actually one of the things I really want to see on a Disney cruise. Like, there's certain things you think of when you think of a Disney Cruise Line, and that is one of them. Like, oh, that looks like so much fun.
The Sail Away party is easily one of my favorite things, and this is coming from somebody that does not like character.
Yeah, it's like, you're not a character guy.
I'm not a character person, but there's something so energetic about everybody being up there. You seeing all the characters, all the performers up there. You have the cruise director for the ship up there interacting with everybody, and then you have the countdown. The countdown's my favorite part because they count down from 5 to sounding the ship's horn.
Is that when it leaves?
Kind of.
Okay.
So it's like it can leave during the Sail Away party, a little after, a little before. It really just depends. But for me, it's like your vacation doesn't start until you hear that ship's horn.
That's cool.
So the countdown from 5, and then they blow the horn, and the horn is obviously to the tune of When You Wish Upon a Star. So hearing that, and then you have the cruise director saying like, Disney Magic, you are on vacation.
That's cool.
So euphoric. It is just absolutely phenomenal just hearing that, because I'm just like, you're right, I am on vacation. The world, or the ship, is my oyster. I can do whatever
really,
I want.
nobody can do it like Disney for this, because you just don't have the characters and the relationships we have as fans with these characters that have gone back basically 100 years now. Because there's, like, I'm trying to think, like, you wouldn't have that same happy vibe with Shrek.
No, you wouldn't.
Like, it's a different, there's something hopeful and positive and happy that comes with the Disney characters that sometimes you don't. Like, Shrek's hilarious, but it's a more of a cynical approach. And
I think it's that feeling of nostalgia, especially because Disney itself inherently is very multi-generational.
Yeah. Oh,
You
very
have
much so.
Families that have grown up on that, and you can have 3, sometimes up to 4 different generations of families on these vacations, and they're all bonding over this one shared experience that they have all gotten to experience at different points in their life, but they're all able to reunite as one and experience it together.
Totally agreed. Let's talk about After Hours.
I love the After Hours venue. I have not been on the one yet on the Wonder, but I know I'm already going to love it because it is the adult-only area. It is absolutely fantastic.
And for the Magic, we get...
For the Magic, we actually get O'Gill's Pub,
which I love that name.
It's really funny because I thought...
Have you ever seen the movie?
I have not.
Oh, it's on Disney Plus.
I thought O'Gill's was exclusive to the fantasy, and when I found out it was on the Magic, I was like, okay, I actually have to go on the ship now.
Fair. Okay.
Because I loved O'Gill's Pub on the fantasy. It was so much fun. We have Keys, which is the piano bar, and I absolutely love a good piano bar. There's nothing more relaxing than sitting there with a nice little drink in hand and just listening to this piano music in the background.
Well, and depending on the cruise ship in line, like Disney, I would expect to be best of the best. But I've definitely been on other cruises where the piano bar, very entertaining, absolutely hilarious, because there's different levels of talent that you discover with piano players and the ones that think they can sing. And
I appreciated that none of the piano players on the fantasy tried to sing.
Okay, nice.
Because I think they kind of recognize, especially because on the fantasy it was in the French-inspired bar within Europa.
Oh, so they're being a little bit more classic, I guess you could call it. I don't know. That's cool.
I would say so, but it was absolutely phenomenal.
And there was originally something called Beat Street?
So that's actually what After Hours was prior to its reimagining.
Oh,
so After Hours was originally called Beat Street. And when I was looking up the information for this, I was seeing the pictures of this online, and the best way I could describe it...
It makes me think of like late 80s, early 90s, like Disney Channel.
This is how I describe a lot of Disney, of what I grew up on, because truthfully a lot of Disney that I grew up on was a Michael Eisner fever dream.
Oh, yeah, that's the direction I'm going. Keep going.
And Beat Street, just from the one picture that I saw of the sign, I was like, this was a Michael Eisner fever dream that I feel like he had this vision come to him in the middle of the night, and he had to jot it down on a piece of paper, and then he flipped it to Imagineering and said, I want this to happen.
Okay. That's amazing.
And looking into it, I'm just like, I wish I could have experienced something like that, because it was so drastically different from what After Hours is. So before O'Gill's, there was a lounge called Diversions, which I don't know what that would entail.
I like O'Gill's better. Like, to me, Diversions sounds like just a...
Well, all of the names of these places just sounded so different. And then before Keys, you had Sessions.
Which makes sense but that wasn't... Or was that the piano bar? Because that makes sense for a piano bar.
That would be the piano bar.
Because that to me sounds like a jazz bar.
This is the funniest one to me, though.
Okay.
Because we have a space in the After Hours section that is now on the Magic called Fathoms, which is a larger, more communal, adults-only gatherings place.
Is it themed to, like, Beauty... Or not Beauty... Little Mermaid?
It's kind of generic. It's very generic. That's, like, their multi-use one.
Okay.
Where they have a lot of different... They'll have, like, comedy acts, like the cooking classes, things like that.
Oh, okay.
In there.
Got it.
So it's a very versatile space. But prior to its reimagining, it was called the Rockin' Bar D.
Is it supposed to be like Rockin' Party? Is that like what it's supposed to...
I don't know. I wasn't quite sure.
Okay.
Truth be told, I tried looking into this and I couldn't find a lot of imagery behind it. But the only thing that I could assume is maybe the D was like the Disney D.
Oh, that could be too. So this is also a point where if you experience this, email us anything you know. If you have pictures or video, even better, at dapstravelspod@gmail.com, because we would love to see this. Like, that would be...
I would love to see what the original Michael Eisner
dream
Disney Magic looked like. Because if it's anything akin to what my favorite fever dream of all time, that being Disney's California Adventure,
I mean...
I would love to see what that actually
The era's not
like.
that far off.
It's not. I mean...
Like, it was kind of the project right before, I would assume. Like, that's...
Yeah.
Like, there's... I would love to see that too. So if you have anything, please email it in. We would love to see, hear anything we can possibly learn about this, because I think we would just get a kick out of that.
I especially would, because if there's nothing I love more than specifically the history, especially of these two classic ships, because they've been the ones that have been changed the most over time. The Dream hasn't been changed much through its dry dock, other than the gutting of some of the senses.
Well, and partially because the timing.
So new.
Yeah. I do think this is a good time, is we have another podcast coming out called Photonics, which is going to be old photos that we talk about from Disney. We're going to have to get Clocky looking for some photos for us for this podcast, that when he goes to these, because he might find some of these pictures And how cool would that be for crossover episodes or something? Like, oh, I think, like, I'm just imagining it being beyond tacky and loud and,
I mean, because that's what Disney
like,
in that era was.
yes, and like the crazy colors.
It was very like kitschy and loud and in your face. And
yes.
Very unapologetically itself.
Which there's something to be said for that.
There really is.
Says the guy that wears a trilby and a bow tie. You know, like, that's... I think there's something to be said for that. Tell us about the Soul Cat Lounge.
So the Soul Cat Lounge is one of, like, the last, like, entertainment-themed venues that we're going to really be talking about, because this was, prior to its reimagining, was the Promenade Lounge, because it was actually right off of the main promenade of the ship.
Oh, so, okay, got it.
So it was one of the areas that received a lot of guest traffic and everything like that. So it was reimagined back in 21 to the Soul Cat Lounge, themed after the movie Soul.
Okay.
And funny enough, I didn't really care for the movie Soul that much.
Which I loved 2/3 of it.
However, despite that being said, I really want to visit this lounge because the level of theming that they put into it feels very immersive.
Is it a piano jazz place? Or like...
From what I've saw, it's just like not a generic lounge, but it's still like a lounge.
It's a hangout space more than a performance space.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. All right.
So it's really, really nice. And they have a parallel to that on the Wonder as being the French Quarter Lounge inspired by Tiana.
Oh, okay. That actually... It's funny because you can tell where I started covering Disney Cruise Line, because you say things, I'm like, oh yeah, I totally remember covering this. Whereas Magic and Wonder were well before Daps started in 2004, and really it was a couple of years later that we really started paying attention to anything beyond Disneyland. And
because I mean, I think the Dream was originally announced, or like the next ship was in 2007 is when they announced it.
And that one I remember vividly. Like, that was super cool, and because it wasn't ever on anybody's radar that, like, oh, there could be more, and now we've got so many more coming. And
I am determined to be on all of them.
I think that
at one point in time.
Absolutely. Let's talk about one of your favorite things on Disney Cruise Line, and that's the amenities. Like, you are an amenities king, I feel like.
My mentality is that when you are on a ship and you are on any form of vacation, and I'm a huge advocate for this, do a little bit of research, find out what the amenities of whatever resort, wherever you're at, what they are, so you could take advantage of them.
Well, and I will say this.
With Disney.
I listened to you. So going to Tokyo at the end of this month, actually, wow, it's soon, is I originally was like, nah, I'm just going to go simple. I'm going to go cheap, spend all the money in the parks. It's going to be fine. And then I had this little Johnny voice in the back of my head of like, you know what? Maybe I should research this a little bit. So I did. And it ended up with being like, you pick what you want out of this. And I kind of went for the middle instead of the top or the bottom. And instead we're staying at Tokyo's Disneyland Hotel with views of the park. And I was just like, no, I want to have this, and this. I don't really care about some of that. And what I really want is to just look into Disney Sea, but I don't want to spend $4,000 a night or whatever. And I was like, this is a good balance. Like, this is a balance between value and getting spoiled a little bit. But
I love hearing that, because I am a huge advocate of, specifically whenever you're going anywhere, and this is very true for Disney, you pay a huge premium for convenience. A great example of this is pricing the Disneyland Hotel versus the Grand Californian.
Oh, absolutely.
The Grand Californian has such a heavily inflated price tag because you cannot beat the convenience of having your park entrance literally being an elevator ride down.
And how many times have we used that? Like that's
My
such
family uses it countless times whenever we're there. And for us, because especially with like my mom, she has some mobility issues with her knee.
Yep.
It is an amenity that we heavily take advantage of, and in our minds is worth that premium, because just like anywhere you go, time is money, especially when you're on vacation. That's how I view things, is time being money, and it might be worth it in the long run for you to spend a little bit more in order for you to get more of that time back so you can spend it doing the things you really, really want to do.
And in the case of your mom and then my parents, is having those fewer steps to getting to the moment you really want to experience, as opposed to, like, I think at the end of the day, whatever Disneyland hotel you stay at, you're paying a premium because you're on property.
You're paying a premium because you're on property. And
there's something to be said for, and there's something to be said for not having to walk across harbor or whatever it is. We could do a whole episode on this, actually. We're going to do this. We're going to do a Disneyland
yapping
hotels.
About hotels? Oh, God, yeah. I'm never going to stop talking.
But I think the same can be said for the cruise line, is you don't even have to leave the hotel to enjoy the experience, because you literally walk out your door and you're in a floating Disney experience.
That is true.
And that's one of the things I absolutely love about cruises, is you don't have to unpack because you're going to a different destination. You're just there. You don't have to like there's nothing super crazy. You're just
it's like you're paying that premium to have your hotel move with you.
Yeah. And it's amazing.
And this especially applies to, I feel like, more, not necessarily exotic destinations, but destinations that have so much more around them, like Europe, for example.
Mm-hmm.
To where you can take a cruise to Europe and you can sail to all these different countries that it would be more of a pain and more of a hassle to get to individually, versus, okay, one day you're going to be in France, the next day you're going to be in Spain, the next day you're going to be in Italy, the next day you're going to be
like
in
the DVC cruise last year. Yeah, like there's so many good
places. You have such an amazing opportunity to go to visit all these places, and you do not have to worry about the travel and how am I going to get there and
where am I going to eat, or how am I going to know what's on the menu. Like, that's another thing with the Disney Cruise Line in general, is you always will find something good to eat. Like and if you're having a hard time with the menu, odds are they're going to help you. And
that is true. You can always find you can find anything.
I mean, and that's true for most cruises, but Disney is going to go the extra mile. So on the Magic, there's 3 shops. We'll start with that.
Yes. Of course, shopping is one of my specialties, because I know a cute little mug hates to see me coming. As we're looking at all the mugs in here. I love it.
And there's a Disney Wonder one up there from Tyler and Haley. Like, I'll pull it down after.
I'm looking at it, and I need it.
Isn't it adorable? Like, I kind of hope they still have stuff like that for when we all go on, like, all these ships. But
I need that mug more than
if it disappears, we're not going to know where it went.
If it disappears, you can blame my cat.
So what are the 3 shops?
So the first shop we have is Sea Treasures. That's going to be on deck 3. That's going to be one of like the smaller little shops that they have.
Which, reading deck 3, when I first took a look at this, messed with my brain a little bit, because most of the ships I've been on, you can't go to deck 3 unless you're exiting the ship at one of them. Really? Because usually it's like 4 maybe, but usually it's 5 and up.
That's so funny, because on every single Disney ship, maybe except for the Adventure, that might be the odd man out.
Because it's
you board on deck 3, and that's where the atrium is.
So I think it's like 4 or 5 where usually
passenger decks. Passenger decks can go down to deck 1. So on the Magic and Wonder, there are a fair amount of guest rooms on deck 1.
So I'm betting they're tapered differently. Like, I also learned some interesting things about the Disney Adventure that we're gonna have to save for another podcast. That is very fascinating. But we'll come back to that. What else we got?
We have, beginning on deck 4, we have the 2 main shops that people think of are Mickey's Mainsail and Whitecaps. Sea Treasures is going to be a lot of more of like your jewelry and your
the expensive stuff.
And like the more expensive items, whereas Mickey's Mainsail and Whitecaps are going to be what everybody fiends after. They have the towel animal plushes, they have the mugs, they have the ornaments,
jackets or whatever.
Jackets, and if you're me, spirit jerseys.
Question: do they not have a candy shop on the Disney? Because that seems like the thing that they have in a lot of these ships now. Is,
to the best of my knowledge, the Magic and Wonder do not have an exclusive candy shop.
Interesting. So you just
Dream, Fantasy, Wish, and Treasure do,
because they're always so cute. Okay, interesting. All right. What else we got on the amenities front?
When it comes to amenities, and especially when you think Disney Cruise Line, a lot of people think about kids.
Yeah.
And the entertainment options that you have for them.
Yes.
So one of the amenities that they specifically have are a lot of the kids clubs. So you have the Oceaneers Lab / Oceaneers Club, which is available for guests age 3 to 10.
Okay.
And how this works is the parents actually check them in to the club and everything like that. They do not have in and out privileges like how they would at the teen clubs
That makes, yeah, you got to keep it safe. That makes sense.
So parents check them in, and from what I've heard is that these are super entertaining. Kids can be in there literally for hours all day, every day.
I've had friends go on these cruises and the kids just don't want to leave. Like, they don't want to spend time with their families because they're having so much fun in the club. So that makes total sense.
And then moving on from that, for the little ones, we have the It's a Small World nursery on Deck 5. That is available for ages 3 and under.
Which I can't imagine giving up a kid. Like, I'm not a parent, but, like, I maybe it's the first parent or, like, the first time kid thing or whatever. But, like, I don't know if I'd want to give up a kid that young. I don't know.
I don't know for me personally, because I am very much childless. I'm 27 and just living my life as is. But
we are the epitome of Disney adults, my friend.
you know, you're not wrong.
I'm aware of what we are. That's fine.
I am very much a Disney adult, and I wear that sometimes with a badge of honor.
That's okay.
Very rarely. But I don't know how I would feel about that, but I would also feel at least okay knowing that
it's the best of the best.
It is some of the best of the best.
Yeah.
And what I also like about it is the nursery is actually really, really cute.
Yeah.
It's themed very much to It's a Small World. It screams Mary Blair. And
love that.
I adore that. I love anything Mary Blair related. One of my favorite things is the contemporary mural that they have in the A-frame tower.
I need a bow tie of that.
I absolutely love looking at that, and I always love
with the
five-legged goat.
Yeah.
We
both go to the goat, yes. And then for 11 to 14-year-olds.
For 11 to 14-year-olds, we actually have Edge, which is located in Deck 9 forward. That's going to be the club for 11 to 14-year-olds.
I feel like for that, and then the teenage, whatever the next one is, those are probably the two hardest to name and then also keep relevant, because they're kind of harder ages to keep happy. Does that make sense?
I mean, you can just put like an Xbox, a PlayStation, and a Nintendo Switch in there and call it a day.
But you have to get them in the door first. I don't know.
But the thing is, they can go to and from. Like, if they want to go
so they can just go, okay.
They can just go to and from.
Got it.
They have the in and out privileges.
Okay.
And this is one thing that I think is really cool, kind of moving on to the next venue that we have, which is Vibe. Mm-hmm. It's located in the funnel. Okay,
that would get me. Yeah.
It's in the funnel. And I think that's really cool.
I would love that.
I would love that.
I'm like, I would like to be 14 to 17-year-olds. It's like when they used to have Jedi Training Academy, and I was too old to do it.
It's interesting to see how they have this in the funnel, though, because on the Dream, when the Dream went into dry dock last year, they removed the club from the funnel.
They made it into
a concierge Dream Tower suite.
Right.
Themed after Fantasia.
So where did it get moved to?
It actually got moved to Deck 5 forward next to Edge.
Oh, that makes sense, though.
And it kind of makes sense because those age groups already, it's okay to kind of like...
There's a little crossover.
Yeah, there's a little crossover already.
Parents know where they're all in one place.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay.
And the same is actually going to be happening to the Fantasy when it goes into its
there you go.
dock.
Which, amazing. One of the things I love about the Magic that I'm not sure is on every ship later is they have the promenade that you can walk all the way around.
It is. So it is on the first 4 ships, and it is technically...
Aren't you impressed I actually knew that?
I am.
That's kind of that's a little bit of a stretch, but go ahead.
It is technically on the Wish and the Treasure. However, it is not on a single level.
Oh, so you have to go up and down.
It can be closed depending on what weather conditions and things like that are like.
Okay, that's fair.
What I do appreciate about it on the Wish and the Treasure, though, is you can kind of have that moment on the very, very front of the ship.
Oh, like where you're on the bow? Mm-hmm. Oh, I would love that. Where you're on the bow,
just looking out over there at the...
Which, like, a lot of ships you can't. I would love that.
A lot of ships you can't do that.
All right, I'm sold.
You can do that on the Wish and Treasure when they have it open. It's really nice.
That would be epic. Okay, I love that.
But that is one of the things that really sets Disney Cruise Line apart from a lot of the other ones is they have the promenade wrapping around the entire ship, and you have various seating on the side, and you also have shuffleboard.
Which also you don't really get in every cruise line anymore.
You don't.
Like that's
and it very much is paying an homage to what classic luxury ocean liners were like back in the 1920s and the 1930s.
When I think of shuffleboard, I think of Titanic. Mm-hmm. Not a great thing to think about when it comes to cruising, I suppose. And then I also think of the Love Boat, like the TV show, because I'm like, oh yeah, they sometimes did that as a plot device or whatever to keep people busy while they were talking. I don't know. I think the Love Boat is one of the funniest shows ever, though, because it's like, oh, we have the same show every week, and we came up with however many seasons to make it different. This is again one
of those times where I'm just gonna like just smile and nod and pretend I know.
So some point you're gonna watch an episode of the Love Boat, and you're gonna see exactly what I'm talking about, and you're gonna just see how ridiculous it is, but it also captures the spirit of cruising. So there is something to be said for it. We already kind of hit on where it goes. What was the ship originally like? Big picture versus what it is today.
So big picture, it was less Disney. That's the best way I can describe it.
Isn't that weird?
It is really weird to think about it right now. I mean, again, this was an era of Michael Eisner fever dream.
Of leaning into more Disney. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. I mean, when I think of Michael Eisner Disney, I don't think of leaning into more Disney. I think of DCA 1.0.
True, actually.
I think of Mulholland Madness.
And you know,
Malibu Ritos.
And it's funny you say that because you mention all of that. I'm like, oh, well, that's Paul Pressler and Cynthia Harris. And I'm like, no, that was also Eisner. Because I think of Eisner hopping around behind the corner of a tree or something and saying hello on The Wonderful World of Disney, growing up and doing funny sketches with Mickey Mouse and introducing whatever movie on Sunday night. And
I think of Eisner giving me one of my favorite parks of all time that to this day is still having an identity crisis.
And maybe it will always.
And actually, now that I think of it, 2 parks, because there's 2 parks that can be accurately described as that.
True. Very true. Very true.
But going back to what the ship was like originally,
yes.
It did not have a lot of Disney IP and a lot of Disney branding into the ship as a whole. A great example, like how I touched on before, is before Rapunzel's Royal Table, it was Parrot Cay, which not very much Disney theming. The only thing I could probably think of in there with maybe tying into that would be at a stretch, the Enchanted Tiki Room.
But the weird thing when you think about that is it's mid to late 90s when the ship is being built and designed and all this stuff. You're coming out of an era of Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, some of arguably the greatest Disney animated films of all time, and none of them really make it in.
I mean, Beauty and the Beast does in the form of Lumiere's.
Yeah, but like that's one restaurant out of the entire... That's such an interesting thing.
I do have to say, though, Little Mermaid does have a pretty heavy influence on The Wonder.
Okay. So we're going to come back to that one then.
Yeah, I was about to be like, I want to put a pin in that because Little Mermaid actually has a pretty significant influence on what
So
the
you're
Disney
saying
Wonder
they
is.
learned. Okay.
I actually would say, because now that I think of it, out of all the 4 ships that they had at the time, the Wonder is the one ship that actually doesn't have a Fab 5 character.
Interesting. Okay. That's very okay. That's very cool. What else was different?
So one of my favorite little facts about it, and this is kind of like a sad fact because I love this glasswork and everything like that.
Okay.
When the Disney Magic first debuted, it had this beautiful Chihuly glass chandelier in the atrium.
Wow.
In the reimagining of it, when it went into dry dock in 2013, that was removed. And it was replaced with a different, still very elegant Art Deco inspired chandelier, but it was removed. And I think the reason it was removed was partially due to like the repair maintenance for it and cleanliness. Okay. Because when I think of Chihuly glass,
too intricate or whatever,
I really think they were afraid that they would accidentally break it.
Okay, that's fair. I wonder what happened to it.
And I'm assuming it's probably stored somewhere.
I hope so.
I'm hoping the Walt Disney Archives has it.
Yeah. And ends up in a movie or something someday, or I don't know.
Or maybe, now that I just thought of it, maybe it's in the Chihuly Glass Museum up in Seattle. That's actually something I should probably think of.
Yeah, it's worth looking into. That's really cool.
But I saw pictures of the chandelier, and it was absolutely stunning. And I'm also a big fan of Chihuly's work.
Okay. Well, as we're running a little bit out of time, what were the major changes through the years?
So one of the biggest changes was, like how I said, in 2013, the ship went through its longest dry dock it's ever been through. And it was a 48-day long reimagining.
That's a lot of money to lose.
It is a lot of money to lose.
I mean, it's going to gain it in the long run, but yeah.
They plussed a lot of the areas on the ship. Mm-hmm. And this was the first of its like real reimaginings that it had been through. In that time, they actually added a little ducktail extension to the stern of the ship to actually help it navigate better through the waters and help it ballast a little bit better.
Technology.
Right? Mm-hmm. This was also the same dry dock to where Beat Street was changed into after hours, and they reimagined nighttime spaces and everything like that.
Okay.
And then one really fun fact that I think is cool is when the ship originally debuted, there was an observation deck to where guests could walk through and observe the bridge.
Oh, that would have been cool.
This was unfortunately removed.
Oh, that would have been so cool.
After 9/11.
I mean, that's fair.
And the space that they had there was later on reimagined to be the gym.
Which is kind of common on a lot of ships up there. But that would have been pretty epic.
And I saw some images of it online, and it looked really, really cool.
I would have spent so much time there.
They don't have anything that can take you to the bridge now. They do have tours on the ship that they do with like the little.
But they don't do a bridge tour.
They don't do a bridge tour, but they walk you through the design and the imagining of the ship and everything. So I do think that was cool.
That's cool.
And then kind of tying into like what made the ship really special is, as we touched on in the very beginning, she was the one that started it all. The Disney Magic was the one that really pioneered and launched Disney Cruise Line to be the successful cruise line that it is now, with how many more ships coming? Like, I want to say 5, 6 more ships we have coming down the pipeline.
Oh, and that's what we know about. Like, I firmly believe, like, we saw the Oriental Land Company report or plan for the next 10 years, and they basically say in that is when their cruise line or their cruise ship, which is a Disney cruise but not a Disney cruise, like, I'm sure it'll be very similar.
It'll be the 4th Wish class ship.
But they flat out say when this one is successful, we're gonna order another one, and it's like, oh, okay, what kind? We'll see.
And so it being the very first ship in the fleet is what makes it very special. And for me, what I thought was interesting, that a lot of the times with cruise lines, after about 20 to 25 years, a lot of the times that major cruise lines retire these ships and
they get sold off,
to smaller cruise lines so they can be repurposed. And Disney is not showing any sign of doing that in the relative near future. I could see that further on down the line.
Which I appreciate. I mean, can you imagine them just selling off Disneyland or something? Like, there's something different about Disney, and I think it inevitably will happen, but I'm glad they're holding off on it as long as they can. I think it's the level of
attention and the detail and the level of care that they put into maintaining it. Because like how we said before, the Magic and the Wonder look pristine.
They're gorgeous.
They look stunning. They look like they were maybe built a few years ago. They do not really show what their age is like.
Well, a nice thing with the Disney Cruise Line is they really do make timeless looking ships. I feel like they could fit in so many different eras and look brand new or old in a good way. What else do we need? Is there anything else we need to hit on Magic other than we want to go on it?
I really want to go on it, and I also think it's cool how it's one of the other. It's one of the only ships in the fleet that goes through the Panama Canal,
which would be awesome.
I really, really, really.
Yeah, I think that would be super cool. All right, well, that has been the Disney Magic from Daps Travels. We hope you've enjoyed going through a virtual tour, I guess you could call it, of this ship, as we will go through each of the ships to kind of set a baseline of where the Disney Cruise Line is. And also to be a resource, you'll be able to find this on Daps with the page for each cruise ship to make life easier for you, hopefully. And then as we go through each cruise, we'll give reviews and trips. We might almost have to do 2, now that I'm saying this, on the Wonder, that one is like this and then one is a trip report.
Yeah,
because one's more of a review.
Talking a lot about what my experience was like in Alaska, and then the other one we could focus on talking what the experience was like on the ship
and the history and the ship and all of that stuff.
And it'll be better to do that because I will actually have firsthand experience being a guest on it.
I agree. Okay, so we'll do that. There'll be 2 episodes coming on the Wonder in the near future. Hope you won't miss those. If you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe button. We'd love if you would also give us some love in your comments and the ratings, because that does help this get seen more. And the more it gets seen, the more it gets heard. The more it gets heard, the more we can do more cruise stuff, and that leads to more interesting conversations. Maybe eventually we'll do one of these on one of these ships, which would be epic.
That would be so cool.
Can you imagine sitting in a lounge just talking about our day on the cruise or whatever? Like, we'll figure it out. Yeah, that would be very cool. But if you haven't done it yet, subscribe. All of the stuff we mentioned before. We hope you've found this fun. We hope you found this interesting, knowledgeable, whatever. Enlightening. That's the word I'm looking for. But we will have a new one for you after Johnny gets back from the Wonder. So have a fantastic week, everybody. Make it a great one, and keep kind.
Yeah, keep kind.